control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She caught me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you. Hope you guys are doing great. What's going on out there? I think everybody's kind of in their own zone, in their own place, doing their own thing. But thank you for coming here and being a part of the Paranormal Portal. These are our night terror episodes. They're a shorter version of ghost stories and ghostly encounters and stuff. That's 1 hour shows generally. Wednesday, Friday, Saturday are 2 hour shows. So welcome. And we hope you like what you're hearing. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe, like, share, let people know about it. It certainly helps us out a ton. We're trying to grow the channel and see what it can become, but we can't do it without your help. So thank you all for that. Check out the links in the description for other ways to help us on the Paranormal Portal. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm about ready to dig into it here. It's been a productive day for me. I got a lot of things done, and I feel good about it. So I'm ready to hit the ground running tonight. So hope you're all ready, because it's time for bed. All right, we are underway here on the Night Terrors of the Paranormal Portal. I'm still your host, Brent Thomas, and we are underway. So throughout the duration of the show tonight, the phone lines will be open if you have a paranormal occurrence of your very own that you'd like to share on the show. Love to hear from you. You can call in by dialing 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. Those are the numbers for fun. Just like a lottery ticket, I'm telling you. You punch them in, and a lot of good things happen. At least for me, I love hearing from people. I love hearing from you guys. So feel free to call in. It's always a great journey. So let's see. I got some stories pulled up for you guys. So I hope you guys are ready to roll. Hello to all of you in the chat room. Thanks, guys, for being here. Hello to all of you who are sitting quietly and just watching in your own space. Turn down the lights, pull up a blanket, get a hot drink, and we'll get this underway. So without further ado, let me do my job. And that is to read you guys ghostly encounters on these night terrors. And the first one tonight is coming from Georgia. It's about a medium-length story, but it has to do with a haunted place. So I don't know about you guys, but I like these stories. These are generally pretty cool. They generally have to do with haunted houses, haunted areas, haunted lands, things specific to a place. So let's see what's going on here. It says, here's some background information about me. I was born and raised in the South. Hunting, fishing, and being outside is what I'm all about. I've been lost alone in the woods and have been in places that if one would allow it to happen would scare anyone. 1986, woods around Tignall, Georgia. So it's 1986. I was at a hunting camp with some friends, and I'd spotted a nice area that had been clear-cut 3 or 4 years ago, and the undergrowth was about head high and thick as could be. Perfect place for deer to hide. My companions told me that they had hunted the area before, but to no avail. I do see we got a call. I'll get to the call right after this story. But to no avail, and I thought it was perfect. Well, I drove my truck up the service road to the end of the clear cut where the big trees overlooked, and I carried a portable deer stand to a nice strong tree and climbed up. On the way to the stand, I passed an old foundation and still standing chimney of a very old house, probably pre-Civil War, I guessed. I sat up in the tree for hours, no sign of anything. I looked at the old chimney, and there was a man in a dark jacket looking at me. Although I had permission to hunt the land and I decided to make contact and make sure I wasn't on someone else's property, I waved, but he did nothing. Well, I climbed down and walked over, and there was no one there. I went back up the tree. He was back. On my third trip back up, I yelled at the man, and he didn't move. Well, I broke a fundamental law of hunting. I zeroed in on the man with my scope. He was wearing a plain jacket and pants, and I could see his beard. Now really ticked off, I went back down, walked over to the chimney, and looked at some landmarks and I had found in my scope: an old bucket near the chimney, a tree, and with 2 busted limbs, and these landmarks were directly behind the man. Once again, I climbed down, walked over to the chimney, and examined the ground. No footprints except mine. Well, now I was scared and mad. I thought some of my buddies were really screwing with me, and I checked all around the old foundation and surrounding area. Nothing. I decided to get the heck out of there. I went back up to the tree to get my tree stand and took another look, and sure enough, there he was. Well, I then did something I had never done. I put a round from my 30-06 rifle right above his head. He didn't even blink. I knew then that something was very wrong. I repeated the shot, but this time right at his feet. Same result. Boy, you got to be really sure about your bet if you're going to gamble on that. That's not a good thing to do. By that time, I was ready to go, and on my way past the old house, I saw where my bullet had hit the ground and where the other had hit the chimney, and all I wanted to do was to go, and I did in a big hurry. I got to my truck and got the heck out of there, and as I was driving up the service road, I was shaking. I stopped and thought about the whole morning. Why were there no birds? How come I didn't see any sign of deer, rabbits, squirrels, or any woodland creatures? When I got to the main road, I saw an old black man working in his garden, and I stopped and asked him about the land that I was just on. Well, he laughed at me for hunting that land. Ain't nothing lives down that road but trees, he added, that during the Civil War, a whole family was killed by a stranger who was never caught, or at least that is what his grandpa told him. All he knew was that it was a waste of time to hunt anything down in those woods. Well, I went back to the deer camp and lodge and quietly packed my stuff and left without saying a word. I never told this story for the ridicule of the guys that would have given me. But every now and then I have a dream where I'm up in that tree and the man walks up to the tree, and I wake up scared as a baby. I'm posting this story to get it off my chest, and I've since spent many a night in the woods, strange sounds around, but there's always some kind of explanation. I don't look for ghosts or other things, but that day will be with me forever. I'm not very computer savvy, so I can't say how I'll respond to comments, but maybe I'll learn something. Thank you. Wow. So you got to wonder, it is looking at the guy, so it sounds intelligent, but it didn't do anything other than just stand there and stare. So the call is gone. I thought it was Taz that was calling, but apparently she gave up. But the phone lines are open if you want to try again. If it was you, Taz, or if it was someone else, I'm sorry. I just wanted to get through the story because I had already started it. But yeah, so really cool story, though. I don't know. I think those are really, really interesting. There's a lot of ghosts everywhere. I think so. I think there's a lot of wandering spirits in these lands that we live on, and there's a lot of history. There's a lot of old ghosts around. Maybe they forgot where they were or what the hell's going on. Maybe they're just sticking around because they like it here. I don't know. But it's very unusual. So let's get to the next one. And this one's a big one. It's coming from Oregon. And so if there is a caller going to call in, call now before I start reading this, because it's going to be a while. This will be a good 10-minute story anyway. All right, let me get a drink. This one's going to take some effort. 720-923-0500. You are right, Duke. That's the number for fun right here on the Paranormal Portal. Okay, so let's get on with this. Oregon. Ever since I was asked, this has to do with psychic mediums, rather. And so, just so you know, the context of the story. Ever since I was asked by a precious 13-year-old Mexican boy if I remember that he died in a school bus accident in Los Angeles, I've been wondering if I could have died myself. I saw and heard him one morning in Anaheim, California, and he was standing in my bedroom very happy with a happy smile on his face and seemed to be quite alive. He was actually waiting for me to notice him standing right beside my bed as I sat up to focus on him. I could see through him a bit. He told me his name, age, and the day he died. His last name was Hernandez. Well, I was in a bus accident before in California, but of course, I don't believe I died. I just have flashbacks in my dream of it, such as the impact some of the passengers going through the bus window as the bus hit a guardrail and thrusted passengers out the window. It was a Greyhound bus heading to California in 1987, and then on impact, it was a yellow school bus. I was overwhelmed as the bus was tipping over the edge of the embankment, and I never saw the actual results of what happened to me. It occurred at night. I saw people falling down the embankment, and I saw that I had seconds left before the bus tumbled down the embankment with me and a few more terrified passengers remaining. I've had these horrible, oppressive dreams for years. This young man startled me with him being so happy to see me and asked me if I remembered him. He didn't say that I died, but that he had died, so I dismissed it. I had an incident recently where the residents of my home thinks that I am a ghost, the resident being a family living in the same place at the same time in another realm. Oh, that's interesting. My very existence is frightening them. Where my bed is also where theirs is as well. And I jumped when I saw the man in his flannel pajamas handing me a blue packing sponge that I purchased at Fred Meyer's, a department store in Oregon. I realized that he was handing this sponge to his wife instead. And when he looked at me and realized that he was looking at a spirit instead of his wife, I realized that this was not one of my teenage sons, but a man I've never seen. He was a bit transparent, and this startled me, and I could see that this man was startled as well. Well, he faded out, and I suppose I did as well, in his sight. This was 9 months ago, and this incident happened the very first night in the home, and he evidently was trying to figure out where his blue packing sponge came from. It's December of 2008. It's cold here in Oregon. There is an area in the window where flies congregate, and these flies are rather large. And this house is very clean, but there are flies, not fleas, in a corner of the room in the corner of the window seal, buzzing around until they die. And then a week later, there's more. There's ice cold air coming through the small cracks in this window seal. In this house, I've lived for 3 years. I lived in 3 years ago in Cornelius, Oregon. The house residents on the other side also thought I was a ghost. And there was a man in a flannel shirt, jeans, and work boots in my bedroom closet. And he looked about 30 years old, Caucasian, 6'2" and a medium build. He looked like an Oregonian from another time, maybe the 1930s. The very first night I moved in there, he was standing there. It wasn't frightening for some reason. He looked confused and a little frightened. This was a brand new house, and I was the first residents of this new home in 2005. Previously, it was land and pastures from what I saw at Cornelius City Hall. But he was transparent, and he saw me, and I saw him. He disappeared, and he looked startled at me before he vanished. One night I could hear him talking and walking, and it was late, and I had not been able to get enough sleep because of this new subdivision. There was a total of 8 huge dogs barking all day and all night. When the dogs finally stopped barking, I could then hear this man talking to someone and walking through the house. Well, I was sleep deprived and almost delirious by then. These dogs had been barking since the day I moved in, and there were many complaints and altercations because of this from the other neighbors. Well, I vehemently came in the closet and yelled, "Will you be quiet? I need to sleep." And I heard a quick rustle and then instant silence. I didn't see anyone, but I knew where the talking was coming from. I live with my two sons who are almost adults, and I knew that it wasn't them talking. My bedroom is very far from their rooms, and this talking was coming from my bedroom closet. A week later, I was in bed and all the lights were out. I was finally asleep when I smelt bacon and eggs and could clearly see that I was in a basement or a barn-like place, and I hadn't quite fallen asleep yet. And I realized that I was in two places in the same spot. It may have been a barn, but there were no animals. It only looked like it could have been one or was an actual shed. And there was an old wooden staircase with a wooden banister off to the left leading up to what seemed to be a kitchen. Well, I heard this man talking to who I believed to be his wife. She was cooking breakfast, and I could hear the bacon frying, and for some odd reason, I could tell she had on an old dress and an apron. She seemed to be a good person. Her husband was a good man himself. I could see what type of people they were. He was curious by nature, it seemed, and talked a lot. She had only a few words, but he was taller, or a talker for sure. And I was in the basement or barn below, in my bed, in the bedroom of my new home at the same time. And I was seeing and living in two dimensions at this moment. As he was talking, he had opened the door leading down to the barn, which was also my bedroom. And in this present realm, I was annoyed and sleepy and wanted to get some sleep badly. As he descended downstairs, I was about to yell at him, and he looked shocked and froze. And I asked, "What are you doing? Will you let me sleep?" At that moment, I realized that this was his house as well. And I thought that he was going to slowly walk over to me and ask me a question because he was looking curious upon noticing me. Well, I was so sleep deprived that I just wanted him to leave. The reason I yelled, and he backed away and ran up the steps as fast as he could. I could hear him telling his wife about the ghost he mentioned the other day. I looked around and could clearly see into that dimension and this dimension. I lay awake so tired for a while and realized God may be trying to tell me something. I seek a lot when it comes to spirituality, but I also always acknowledge God first. I was too tired for the supernatural that night. I was so sorry that I yelled at the man again, and I just needed to get some sleep. A few days later, I had waited patiently for all the dogs to stop barking by 10 p.m. and to fall asleep. I was drowsy and ready to just sleep forever. The dogs stopped barking, and I turned out all the lights. I turned out all the lights. I could see again into these two realms, and this time by a slight buzzing sound, and to my surprise, there were 3 men in my bedroom, which is the barn or basement in their dimension. And they were sitting around an old table in the dark and were looking over a crystal ball with a single candle for light that was sitting in an old wooden beat-up shelf off the barn wall. And I noticed that since I wasn't interested in what I was seeing, I could fall asleep. For some odd reason, I could feel a lot of energy being pulled from me, which made me feel off-balanced as if I were falling, even though I was lying down, which made me trying to fall asleep just unbearable. I was almost in tears as I lay there, hopeless. I suddenly realized why I felt my energy being pulled away. They were trying to contact me as though I was the ghost that was in their home, and I could not believe my eyes or ears when I realized that they were asking and saying, "Reveal yourself. Who are you?" Well, the more they summoned me, the madder I got. I thought this was rude and annoying, and I yelled, "Would you please leave me alone?" I physically tried to break up their setting by pushing the table over, and I somehow, by my spirit, pushed the table over and the crystal ball. The table fell over with a crash and a heavy thud, and I saw one of the guys trying to keep his balance as he was frightened and carelessly fell back out of his chair. The other 2 ran upstairs in haste and fear. I was overwhelmed a bit that I did this, and I was sympathetic and felt sorrow for this as well. I knew that they were simply trying to find out what was in their home. They were in another time, the Oregon Trail time period it seemed, and it was nighttime in this dimension and morning there. It was nighttime in this dimension and morning there, okay. I wish that I hadn't reacted that way, but I knew that they were going to keep bothering me out of curiosity, and I was sleep deprived, and I have realized that I am the ghost to them, even though I'm not dead. I don't think I'm dead. My brother, who had passed, saw me one day, and I asked him what he was doing here. I thought he was dead. When I told him, he got offended and said, "I'm not dead." I said, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry." I could always see when a person was going to die, the way they were going to die and where they will be stuck, and whether they will go to the fiery or dark place. Sorry, I clicked on something by accident. Every time I tried to tell them, they never listen. I've experienced death or passing over many times, yet I can't die, or is going from one dimension to dimension. And I've been told many times that I was somewhere speaking to a person like good friends, and how we talked for the hours at that time, or that I was standing in their room guarding them from some evil forces at night. They would remember me, but I don't have a clue to who they are. My family doctor even refereed to me being in Jerusalem, leading a yearly tour, and he said that I was one of a sect of 40 rare Jews that tell of the end time prophecy of the return of Jesus. I told him that I've never been out of the country. He insisted that I was talking to him for at least 2 hours, and I did not have the Jewish accent, but he was sure that it was me. Some of us are considered dead or ghosts, or something else to the other side. Sometimes we can't prove that we passed over, especially after an accident upon falling asleep. So that's an interesting, really, really interesting story, because could that be some of it? Could that be some of what we experience when we're experiencing hauntings? Is it just a dimensional shift? Is it just a dimensional awareness? Are we just in, I think that the multiverse, let's just consider that for a second. The multiverse is the idea that there are simultaneously an infinite number of universes existing at the same time we are, basically in the same place. There are different versions of us or other people, and I believe that these multiverses intersect from time to time. Like maybe they're best described as bubbles floating within a certain space. And sometimes these bubbles bump into each other, and they don't really bounce off each other, but I think they kind of intersect once in a while. And I think that that's very possible that we may appear as spirits to other people, simply when our, quote unquote bubble passes into another dimension. And if the conditions are just right, there will just be this circuit created for a temporary period of time that allows our energy not only to exist in our bubble, but in theirs, because we are occupying that same space-time moment, but not necessarily space-time space. And so I think that that's very interesting, very unique. I really hadn't considered that too much, because, I don't know. I mean, it does seem very, very plausible, though, that this is what could be going on, at least in some of these instances, and maybe not all of them, but some of them. And I do think that there are spirits, though. Don't get me wrong. I do think, I often say that we are swimming in a world of spirits, and that can mean, the ones that are actually spiritual bodies and no physical body, that they operate. But some of them could be just spirits of this other multiverse kind of bleeding over into ours, and they are physically incarnate in their own. There was, and it could be time as well. And for reference, there was this. Well, let me get this call, because I want to get this, but I want to get back to this before I forget. Where's my mouse? There it is. Hello, area code 480. You're on the air.
Hey, Brett, it's Tonya. Taz.
Hey, Taz, how you doing? I thought it was you.
You can go ahead and finish your story. I don't want you to forget where you were.
Nope. Well, what I was going to say is that I think there was an episode of Ghost Hunters, and Ghost Hunters did this EVP session in this one haunted hotel, and the hotel, they were in the bedroom of the owners, and this hotel is like from the early 1900s or 1800s or whatever, and the wife had died there, and the Ghost Hunters guys were doing an EVP session, And it was really strange because they were getting really incredible EVPs. And they're like, well, hello, Mrs. Blah, blah, blah. Can you hear us? And the return EVP from the spirit
Oh,
was like, well, yes, of course I can hear you. Where are you? Who are you? And they would have this conversation going, and it was such an incredible exchange. But it seemed like to her, she was in her time, she was in her space, and so perhaps it was one of those overlapping realities, that they were communicating with her, and she was communicating with them while she was still incarnate, but it was a time window or some sort of thing, but very interesting. So that was what I was going to say. Uh-huh.
I didn't want to lose your train of thought there, so I was just calling to say hi.
Hi, how you
And
doing?
I was listening to your show today because I missed it last night.
Oh,
And I have to agree, like, about that when you were talking about the black-eyed children.
okay.
You were thinking vampire type of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I'm forgetting. I'm losing my train of thought. I just got rushed, turned on my phone to the charger. Yeah, no, I was thinking because, like, right before you had said that you thought, like, they were not like you said they sucked the life force or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And right before you said that, like 2 seconds before you said that, I'm like, yeah, they're taking the life force. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then you said that, and I'm like, oh, that's weird.
There's
And I
synchronicity.
recall a couple of days ago on one of the shows, you were saying what kind of paranormal kind of stuff are you seeing? And it just made me think of the stuff that I told you about a while back.
Mm-hmm.
I've already had 3 incidences within like a week and a half period where I've seen those little silky looking. I still don't know what those are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like I had seen it when my brother passed, 2 of them, and I had not seen it. And that's been almost 2.5 years now. And then my cousin just passed. So right before that, for the few days prior to his passing and everything, I kept having dreams of my mom. And I know how you think about loved ones visiting. And so, every once in a while, I'll have dreams of her, and it's usually right before someone passes.
Oh.
So I had lost my great aunt about the beginning of January. And then right after, a few weeks later, I lost my cousin. And he's the one that, at the time my brother had gotten really sick, he's the one that had the cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, it's still fresh.
Oh.
But, yeah, I saw it then. I was thinking of them, and, I'm like, okay, hey guys.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then today I saw it again. So I was just like, really, what is this?
Well,
So I know you said that there's beliefs about souls or something like that. So
yeah, and I think that
listening.
I think you're a sensitive anyway. You're just very dialed into things, and I really believe we're in this state of transition right now, and where our things are changing, and obviously things are changing in our world, and most noticeably, of course, is all the current events. But I think it's changing on an energetic level, and I think that we are transitioning in many ways, and so those people that were just somewhat sensitive before, I think, have kind of had their dial cranked up to 10. That they're receiving a whole
I
lot
think
more.
so.
Yeah. And I think that that's probably what's going on with you, is that, for lack of a better phrase, you're waking up. I mean, you're waking up to your potential and your possibilities.
Something's definitely going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the day that you guys had that earthquake, okay, I know it's going to sound hilarious to probably some people, but I was loving on the tree. I was hugging it and telling it to heal and everything.
Uh-huh.
And I had the strangest feeling that something was coming from like, there was like this vibration,
Yeah.
and it was coming upward. And I was
Mm.
just like, what the heck is that? You know, and
Sure.
so, I keep hugging on the tree because it's one of my favorite trees, and it got hit a few months ago with the lightning.
Oh,
And so, I was telling it to heal and everything.
right.
And I've spent plenty of time staring at the moon with that tree and stuff, and
Sure.
all of a sudden I just like felt this vibration, and I've never experienced anything like that. I come home, check online, just doing the Facebook thing, kind of being bored. And Don had said, we just had an earthquake. I'm like, what? So I
Yeah.
don't know if I felt an aftershock or what that was, but that has thrown me. And I've just noticed all these little things lately
Yeah.
going on.
Right. Well, I don't think there's any possibility you actually physically felt it. So I think you had a very spiritual experience about it. When you're connecting to trees, remember, I don't know if you listened to when we had Jenna on, but she was talking about rooting and grounding. She and I were discussing that, and of course, it's funny because it's something that I've taught for a long time about being the tree.
Uh-huh.
Imagining yourself as a tree and being grounded, feel your roots going into the soil. And she was talking about how important that is in her own context. And it was
Oh,
really funny because it was synchronicity between us that we both had that same idea. But I think that
oh,
when you're connecting to the trees, as you're doing, trees, of course, are they are a life force, and I think that
yeah,
when you connect to them, you're connecting to the natural realm, the earth, the realm of earth. I don't know how to explain it, but it sounds really simplistic, but it's really not. It's an incredibly profound
yeah.
state to be in, because when you're connected to the earth, you're connected to everything that's going on here. And so I think that you probably
Uh,
had a very real experience.
well, it's pretty cool because I know, like, recently I've well, I sent you an email and it was a little long, probably put you to sleep, but
Oh,
yeah, because I've experienced things since I was a little kid, but I
uh-huh.
didn't understand it, and it was
Okay.
scaring me. And it got to the point where when one of my mom's friends um, was murdered, and
Mm,
I guess I kind of foretold that, but I didn't really understand it because
sure.
dreams don't always make sense.
Yeah.
But for years, I had a reoccurring dream. I was always following this man, like I was hurrying to try to get to him for some reason. Never understood it. I always thought, oh, what a strange ass dream. Excuse me. Sorry.
That's all right.
Uh, and sorry.
That's okay.
And so, that went on since I was like 7
Mm,
until I was a teenager.
wow.
And when I was a teenager, the week before his death, I just had bloody nightmares just constantly.
Oh,
Every night. It was bad. And I didn't know how to deal with it. And my mom always knew something, but I don't think she knew how to, like, talk to me about it.
sure.
And uh, the moment it happened, I, like, just shot straight up out of my bed, screamed, God, don't let him die. And then
Mm,
I begged my mom to call, and find it. Unfortunately, we were the ones that found him. And,
oh,
but, it's like, after that, I was so scared, and I'm like, I don't want to see these things anymore.
yeah.
Before it was fun, I predicted things and knew what my teachers looked like and would wear the next day. And I never read Don Quixote, but I knew the whole story, and my fourth grade teacher thought I was nuts because she's like, I didn't know you could read Spanish. I'm like, I don't. And she goes, well, what's the story about? And I told her. And she was just like, okay. And so at that moment, I'm like, I guess I shouldn't tell people things. And I told her, she goes, well, how do you know the story? And I said, I dreamt about it. She was just like, okay, we're going to leave you there. So at that point, I stopped, like, just telling everybody, hey, I dreamt that you wore that yesterday.
Yeah. Well, because
So,
yeah, it's tough at a young age to be, feeling so odd. I mean, that's a really formative period of our life, and I think it's tough to hang on to those
mm-hmm.
gifts and embrace them through that period, because it's such a time of uncertainty and insecurity. So, When you feel
Yeah.
different, that's a hard thing for a young adult to handle. So I'm sure you kind of just put up some
Yeah,
walls.
because I remember being like about 8 and someone pointing at me at the street, and she's like, "You're a witch," and I'm like, "What?" And my mom looks and she kind of gives me this little smile. She goes, "Don't worry, honey, you're special." She goes,
Oh,
"Don't worry about it."
yeah.
And it's like my father's side. I didn't know years ago that they actually have several members that do have that kind of sight, the gift of sight,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't consider it a gift. They consider it a curse.
Oh,
And so, I'm like, well, who do I talk to about this? And of course, after that incident, I
yeah.
pretty much shut things down, and I didn't know that I was capable of that. But
Sure.
it was hard, and I was like, well, I really feel bad because sometimes I still do that, but I don't trust my instincts anymore as much as I used to.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to get back into trusting that,
I think
and
I think you
I
should.
don't know.
I really think you should because it's your truth. And here's the thing. I mean, sometimes those kind of things are uncomfortable. I would never. I mean, I understand the curse thing because it's kind of tough sometimes to deal with other people's stuff. That's a hard thing to deal, but it's who you
Yeah,
are. It's part of who you are, and I don't think we can ever truly live our life if we're continually denying a big part of what we are and who we are. And it's a gift. It is a gift, but it's a gift everybody has. Now, for some reason, you're just naturally were turned on. That switch was already on. You didn't have to develop it, but it sounds like you kind of have to redevelop it. But I think part of your course
yeah,
in doing that, I think, is to, and Deb talks about this an awful lot, but I firmly believe she's absolutely right. Is meditation is so important because if your mind is so full of things, you're not going to feel much because you just got this busy,
yeah,
preoccupied mind. So the key to getting back in touch with that is going to be in learning how to silence those thoughts and those things running through your head constantly, because you are an
mm,
incredibly you're an incredibly passionate person, and I don't mean that in an inappropriate way. I just mean that you care a lot about a lot of things, and you care to the point
yeah,
of almost being uncomfortable. Like when people hurt, it hurts you profoundly. When people are going through hard times, it's hard for you.
yes.
So it's like you've got to tame your empathy a little bit, and then once you do that, you can silence your mind, and I'm sure it'll all come back to you.
Yeah, I think it is starting to, like, things are just, I'm noticing a lot more things, and so
Hmm.
that's why I'm like, is it, have I been hurt? But, yeah, I think you're right. Thank you. I
Uh,
know, like, Deb just cracks me up sometimes, so I love her so much. But,
yes.
yeah, thanks. I just wanted to let you know that because I know I sent you that a few days ago, and I was like, oh, he probably never going to find that.
Well, I appreciate that. And
I sent it through MeWe.
oh, did you? Okay, I haven't seen it then yet, but I will look for that. But no, it's always great hearing from you. Thank you, and please call in whenever you want.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I just wanted to make sure you guys are all doing good too, because that was a little shocker to hear that you guys had an earthquake.
Yeah, we had an earthquake,
So
and
I'm glad
yeah,
you guys are doing good.
we were far enough away from it that it was
Mm-hmm.
really just a bunch of shaking here. I mean, not even huge. It
Oh,
was just enough that it was noticeable where we are. It was literally on the northern southern part of the state, if that makes sense. It wasn't quite halfway. It was a little below halfway, but it was
oh
just
okay.
north and east of Boise, which is down in the south part of the state. So, but it was strong enough that it was felt all the way up into British Columbia. So it was pretty huge.
Wow.
Yeah, but we made it. We will we
Mm,
will rebuild.
yay. No kidding. All right. Well, you have a great evening. I'll continue listening.
All right, Taz. Thanks for calling. It's
It's
good to
good
hear from you.
talking to you.
All right, take care.
Bye. You too.
Very cool. That's nice. Taz has been a friend of the show for God years. We've been around that long, ladies and gentlemen. Don just recognized that April is the anniversary month for the Paranormal Portal. It's the month that the show was founded in 2016. It's the month that Don joined the show in 2017. Yeah, I guess it was 2017. and it's the month that we started doing our podcasting. So for some reason, and I hadn't correlated all those dates, but apparently this is a powerful month for the portal. So hopefully it'll bring us goodness in a lot of ways here. So this is the Paranormal Portal month, April. So let's see what's going on now. Thank you, Taz. I appreciate that. She says, congrats, guys. It's been, 4 years. 4 years is a good run, but I'm going to keep doing it until they won't let me. Oh, thanks, Farm. I appreciate that. I think it was the 16th was the first date that I went on the air in April 16th of 2016. It was an audio-only show on Truth Frequency Network, and we're still on Truth Frequency Radio Network. It's a great channel, wonderful people. Chris and Cherie, the owners, are absolutely amazing and have been amazing to us and giving us a home and giving us a start, because it's tough to start this stuff up. A lot of people are starting shows, and my heart goes out to them because it's a tough road. This is not an easy thing to do, but if you love it, it's going to be worth every second of it. So, if these people really love what they're doing, they'll do fine. But it does take a while to get any kind of traction. None of this came easy. And especially for our show, you hear about those sweetheart stories every once in a while. Like, yeah, I started the show and 6 months later, I had 1 million subscribers or 150,000 subscribers. And I'm like, God. But we haven't had some of those sweetheart deals. Now, those same channels may fade away really quickly too. I don't know. But everything we've done has just been literally grassroots. Everything we've done. I've never dumped a dime into advertising the show. Quite frankly, because I'm not sure I could afford a dime, but you know what I mean. It's running the show is expensive enough, but then to take on huge ad campaigns and stuff would be incredibly costly. But we've done it because of your guys' love. This is the house you guys have helped to build. So thank you all so much for that, because it really means the world. So I thought that story was interesting, getting back to the psychic who was experiencing herself as the ghost for other dimensions, other times. I don't know, but it's incredibly interesting, and I guess that's something we've got to consider. Some of these short hauntings, maybe some of these one-off hauntings could just be that. Could be when these the multiverse bubbles intersect, just for whatever reason on that specific time, and suddenly there's a little girl running through your living room or something, and it never happens again, never happened before. Maybe it was just the multiverse bumping into each other or something. I don't know. It's worth considering, because there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a process to all of this stuff. So anyway, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, Deb will be joining us on the 10th of this month, be doing readings. So make sure you mark your calendar if you'd like to talk to our very own Deborah Varner. She'll be doing free psychic readings on April 10th, right here at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Pacific Standard Time. I was right. I don't know. It didn't sound right in my mouth for a second. And it'll be from 7 until 9 Pacific Standard Time. We may do overtime on YouTube if necessary, but I'd like to keep it as close to that 2-hour mark if we can. But call in, get on the horn early, and hold the line. Now, tomorrow night, for those of you that are followers of the show and have been for a while, you are probably familiar with Kevin Lang, who is, of course, the wonderful guy that befriended Glag, who was a young Bigfoot that he discovered, an orphan Bigfoot. And they kind of grew up together. And he's going to come on the show tomorrow night right here. And we're going to get into some more discussions of what's been going on in his world and what new developments he's discovered in his story. So I know a lot of people were following that story. I had parents contacting me, telling me that they've listened to the story of Glag with their kids, and they use it as teaching moments and stuff with their children to talk about kindness and friendship and the bonds and stuff. And it's just just an incredibly beautiful thing. I was like, wow, that is so powerful. So the story of Glag will continue tomorrow night right here on the Paranormal Portal. You can check out his recent visits over on World Bigfoot Radio, Duke's channel, because he was over there as well recently. So, but we're going to continue it here as well. So anyway, let's continue on and see what else we got, because I got more for you. This one is interesting. Speaking of dreams. Okay, let's see that one. And this one. I'm just pulling open some news stories for you guys. Just going into my grab bag of stories I've found. And I'm opening a handful here. So, the first one I'm going to read you is coming from Colorado. This is a longer one. I guess we only have like 10, 15 minutes left. Wow. That's gone fast tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Whew. So it says, in this story, I'll write about my other experiences that my family and I have experienced in the house we used to live in. I'll also explain some of the dreams that I'm still having about that house. Most of the things that occurred in that house were strange, but not too frightening. Most of the activity occurred at night, and I used to always hear a loud thud at night as if something heavy as our washing machine had fallen, and I'd wake up the next morning expecting to see the washing machine tipped over, but each time I was surprised to see it's in its normal upright position. I also had a doll that I slept with, and in the morning I would find it under my bed right next to the wall. My bed was against the wall, and there's no way the doll could have fallen through the small crack between my bed and the wall. I've also had this doll that had a recorder in it, so when you pressed its belly, it recorded whatever noise there was. And, well, one evening my brother and I were playing on a piano that we had, and we recorded what we were playing on my doll. And after recording a few different songs, we noticed a voice, sort of like a moan, in the last one. And we played what we recorded and heard ourselves playing the piano, and then we heard a faint moan as if someone were saying, "Why?" Being kids, we thought it was hilarious and just laughed. Maybe their music sucked. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But now that we're grown up, we get goosebumps knowing that it might have been a ghost. What really confuses me is that we don't even know for sure how many spirits there were in that house. In the first story I wrote about there being 2 spirits in that house, a little girl and a man. And there was also a third one, maybe even a fourth one. The third was a woman. Both my father and my older brother claimed to have seen a blonde woman run from my parents' bedroom and into the bathroom wearing nothing but her underwear. Sorry. I had a man moment there. I'm just kidding. One of our neighbors probably, what was that? Where was I? One of our neighbors probably saw this half naked woman as well, because suddenly there was a rumor in our neighborhood about my mom and my sister running around the house in their underwear. Totally not true. We believe that the third spirit might have been a baby, although we only heard it once. It was with my mother and my brother in the kitchen when we heard a baby cry in the living room. My sister had just had a baby, and we thought she had come in with the baby, but no one else was in the home besides us. We're not sure about how many spirits or ghosts we had in that house, but we know that we certainly had the ghost of that little girl, and several people have seen her. My parents once heard her say, "Mommy, where's my mommy?" I don't like to go to the bathroom at night because I always felt that there was a girl in there. I think it means I also mentioned in my first story that I had many dreams about that house and about that girl. And my dreams are not all identical, but they basically have the same theme. My dreams usually take place in the living room, my parents' room, and my room. And I usually always dream about the house being haunted. And there's always paranormal things going on that just scared the living daylights out of me. It's like everything is just so out of control. In my dreams, there's also always an invisible presence that I can't see. But I can feel it, and it's really frightening. Sometimes I'll tell myself that this presence is the little girl, and other times I don't know what it is. When I do see the little girl in my dreams, I always see her in my bedroom. She's a little smaller than I am. I'm 5 feet tall, and she has light brown curly hair, dark sunken in eyes, and she wears a blue dress. And she always comes out from a closet that, in real life, isn't even there. There's just a wall, and every time that I dream about that house, that closet is always there. And when she comes out, she doesn't say anything. She just looks at me, and I get scared, and sometimes she doesn't even come out of the closet. The door just opens. What's the deal with this closet? It's been 10 years since I've moved out of that house, but I'm still very curious to know what happened there. Thank you very much for reading. Now, the closet could represent a portal. You're seeing it as a closet in your dream because dreams are largely symbolic. So maybe it's a portal, but you're perceiving it as a closet. I don't know, just my 2 cents for whatever that's worth. Yeah. If you're a guy and you got to have a ghost, I guess a woman running around in her underwear would be okay. Sorry. I just can't resist. It's a low-hanging fruit, ladies and gentlemen. What do you want? All right, so let's go to West Virginia, and this is Haunted Places. It says, I've had strange experience that has happened more than once. I worked a late shift in a hospital in the city, and I drive home early in the mornings at around 7 a.m. I have to get on the interstate and travel for about 10 miles to my home. Close to the entrance ramp, I have seen a man sitting on the guardrail with a dog sitting beside him on the ground. He doesn't put his thumb out for a ride, but just sits on the guardrail with the dog. The first time I saw the man and the dog, I thought how sad they were with nowhere to go. On getting closer, I looked out the passenger window right at the man, and he looked right back at me as I drove past him. I looked into my rearview mirror, and neither he nor the dog were there. I slowed down a bit and looked at my side mirror, and still nobody there. Well, I brushed it off and kept driving. Months later, I was coming on the ramp after work, and there were the man and dog sitting on the guardrail. Once again, I looked right at him and thought, that is the same man I saw months ago. I drove past and looked into the rearview mirror, and guess what? No man, no dog. Well, this happened a couple more times, and finally one morning, I pulled over and stopped. I looked out the back window and got out. No man, no dog. I've always been sensitive to the paranormal and have seen some questionable things, but never the same thing over and over with people or ghosts in broad daylight. Is this man just trapped in that spot? Or is he trying to get my attention? When he does get my attention, he just disappears. Any thoughts on this would be appreciated. I have other stories of strange things that I have seen and had happen in the hospital I work in. I'll write more as I have the time. And I think this is good. So I'm going to actually pull up, what do we got? Yeah, we got time for one more. I don't know. The stories read pretty quick, so I'm going to pull up one of his other ones here. And it's, again, from West Virginia. It has to do with apparitions, voices, and touches. This is really pretty long, but I'm going to read it because I'm just not ready to be done yet anyway. So I'm going to give you that. So here goes. It's been a while since I've been able to post a story. It's in parentheses, says forgot my password. There's been a new addition to my household, a lady that 2 of my guy friends and boyfriend have both seen on different occasions. My boyfriend, I think, believes in the supernatural, but he doesn't like to talk about it in any way, shape, or form. Well, we've lived together for about 3 years in my home. One night about 2 years ago, he woke me up from a dead sleep and said, there was some lady standing at the end of the bed, and then she just walked out of the room into the hall, turned right into the bathroom, and vanished. Well, I got up and looked, but I saw nothing, and I told him, strange things happened in this house all the time, and maybe he was dreaming. Well, he seemed shaken by the event, stating he knew what he saw and he was not dreaming. He stayed up the rest of the night, and he never said anything else about it, even though I teased him about his new girlfriend, the lady. He didn't find that funny at all. About a year later, a dear friend of mine was in from out of town, and I was getting ready to go out with him and some friends, and he was waiting for me in the front hallway, which, if you turn left, leads to the bathroom at the end of the hall and my bedroom on the right. I came through another door from the downstairs laundry area, and he looked at me and turned and looked back down the hallway and said, where did you just come from? I said, downstairs, getting my clothes. He turned snow white and said, I've been talking to you for 15 minutes down the hall into the bathroom. I said, I was not back in that part of the house, and there's no access to that area from downstairs. He said he saw a shadow of a woman moving around in the bedroom, off the wall, and in the hallway, like she was looking through drawers and getting dressed. And he said He turned to look at the TV, and out of the corner of his eye, he saw a woman walk out of my bedroom and into the hall and into the bathroom, pushing the door shut behind her. He honestly thought it was me. He continued talking to her, and that's when I came through the door at the other end of the house. Needless to say, he was completely freaked out. Now, another guy friend was over, and he was downstairs in our rec room, and he said right after my boyfriend and I went to the store, he heard someone upstairs walking around, and he thought we were back and came upstairs to help carry stuff in. When he got up there, he said he yelled out for us, but no one answered. He went to the end of the hall and heard something like drawers being opened and shut in our bedroom, and he said he then saw a lady come out of the room, turn right, and go into the bathroom. He freaked out and went outside and waited for us on the porch. He would not go back into the house alone. My boyfriend just saw her again about a month ago. We had friends over, and I went to bed before they all did. And I woke up at about 2:30 a.m. and could see someone in the hallway. Well, it was my boyfriend just standing there frozen, and I said, "What's wrong?" He just said, "I saw the lady again. She came out of the bedroom and went into the bathroom." And I kind of laughed and said, "I think she likes you. Come down to bed." All three men have had the same experience with this woman at different times, and I have never, ever seen her. They say she has long dark hair like an American Indian, a white dressing gown kind of like a woman would wear to bed in the 1800s. My parents built the house, but there has always been a spiritual activity, even though there were no previous owners, and I did some research, and the little town we live in actually had 6 Civil War graveyards throughout our area. Also, all three guys say it's like she does not even see them or even know that they are there. She just does the same thing each time. Now, my questions are, is this a residual haunting? And I would say, yeah, most probably. Why have I never seen her, even though I've seen so many others? Don't know. Why is it just in the last 3 years that she began appearing? Don't know. Next one. Are there maybe just ghosts to her since she doesn't acknowledge anyone? No, it's probably just residual. I had the strange dream one night not long after her last appearance to my boyfriend. Someone or something said to me, "Do not be afraid. You have a new spirit guide and her name is Maggie. She will teach you the ways to protect you." Now, what that meant, I don't know. Sorry, story is so long, but I needed to explain in detail to get the whole thing out here. Any ideas, please feel free to comment. Thanks so much. Wow, that's a good story. I like it. It has heart. It has purpose. I felt very entertained by that, ladies and gentlemen, just like I do by your very presence. Thank you all for being here with me on the Paranormal Portal. Tomorrow night, remember, we're going to be welcoming Mr. Kevin Lang to the show, and stay tuned for that. Remember, Deb Varner will be here on the 10th. And again, if you missed the announcement last night, on the 17th, we are going to welcome an extraordinarily fortuitous event. We're going to have one of the most renowned Yowie researchers in the world on the show. Mr. Dean Harrison is going to be joining us on the Paranormal Portal on the 17th. And it'll be a great opportunity to talk to him and hear, his stories, what he's experienced, what he's seen, what's been going on. I'm really curious about the wildfires, how that's affected things down there. Because, of course, I think, all of those pictures and footage from there was just heartbreaking to see all that natural beauty just, kindling. It's all charcoal now. It's just so sad. So I'm kind of curious how the Yowies have made out down there and if he's finding stuff out. But thank you, Nellie. I appreciate that. I really do. And love you all bunches. Thanks, everybody, for being here and being a part of the shows. You guys make this portal amazing every night when you come in. So spread the word. Let other people know about it. Tomorrow, part 2 of the Ron Moorhead podcast will be released. Again, it's been ported over from our YouTube appearance with Ron on the show. So if you watch that, then maybe it's not a big deal to you. But again, I've listened to that episode several times. I'm still hearing new things. It's just such amazing information. And Ron was an incredible guest. So check that out on the podcast tomorrow. That'll be released at around midnight. So watch for it. if you're still awake. Otherwise, check it out tomorrow morning. If you like the podcast, if you like what you're hearing, please do us a favor. Head over to iTunes and leave us a good review. It really helps a bunch. iTunes, of course, is pretty much the premier location for podcasts, and it's important to do well there. And we're doing really pretty well there. We've been top 50 on the charts around the world, top 100 regularly in many, many countries around the world. So, and that's wonderful. So please help other people find it by leaving a good review. If you would, please, that will help us a ton. Again, check the description for, the links there. There's a few of them. So that'll always be there on every episode. So check it out. But I guess that's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a good time. Thank you all for being here. And I'll be back tomorrow night, of course, with Kevin Lang here on the Portal. So I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. All right, guys. Take care. Keep your heads together. And we're all going to be just fine. Love you guys. And sweet dreams.